Sci Fi Channel Weekends of Wonder. Come with me.
The following is a special presentation of the Sci Fi Channel.
The 70s. For many, it was a decade to forget. But then in 1977, something happened that gave Americans a reason to remember. One event exploded onto the big screen. Now, 20 years later, we remember again. The Star Wars trilogy. It's back and bigger than ever.
Star Wars was designed to be a theatrical experience. It was designed to be on the big screen. Anybody who's actually seen it on the big screen knows pretty much what I'm talking about.
The Star Wars saga. It's a little story made in a very big way.
We'll be safe enough once we make the jump to hyperspace.
This technological masterpiece with ageless characters mesmerized the youth of yesterday. Now, Mark Hamill says it's the perfect time to reintroduce those characters to a whole new generation.
A pirate, a princess, a farm boy, a wizard, and a couple of laughable robots. What's not to like?
A lot, according to Star Wars creator George Lucas.
I wasn't real happy with it when it came out and never felt it really got finished.
From dueling lightsabers to the epic space battles, virtually everyone believed Star Wars was flawless. Everyone except for Lucas. So now, 20 years later, he and his team of wizards at Industrial Light and Magic have gone back and fixed the trilogy.
I've wanted to do this ever since I did the movie. You know, if you go back and you check the interviews of when I made the movie and everybody said, oh, this is so what I said, well, it didn't turn out very well. It's only about 40% of what I wanted it to be. You know, I'm really disappointed in it. And every interview, relentlessly, right through the thing. And everybody said, what is he talking about? This guy's got to be crazy.
The blockbuster is a blockbuster again. $35 million on its opening weekend. The film that originally took Lucas 2 years to make and the same amount of time to restore could hit $100 million in 6 weeks. Audiences are flocking.
I've taken a lot of the special effects shots that weren't really as good as I'd hoped they would be because they were sort of prototype technology. And I've been able to improve them and just add that little difference. There were various things, especially in the original film, that I wasn't satisfied with. Special effects shots that never really were finished, scenes that I wanted to include that couldn't have been included for some reason, mostly money and time.
I've been waiting for you.
Now, with plenty of patience and time, Lucas is fulfilling his dream. He finally has created his dream movie.
Obviously, everybody who works with me has been hearing this for 20 years. As a matter of fact, I think they were relieved. Well, finally, he's going to do it. He's going to get it. We don't have to listen to this anymore.
For almost 2 decades, people could only view Star Wars on their television sets. Home video compresses and diminishes the image. Viewers can pause the tape.
I find your lack of faith.
And they chat it up. According to Lucas, that's no way to watch the saga. This is.
There was a kind of electric experience that happens when you're at a live football game or a baseball game or a rock concert. It's kind of a group experience that you cannot have watching it on video. A whole generation of people haven't been able to experience, and those of us that were able to experience it, it was a long time ago, and I think a lot of people that I've talked to would like to be able to see that again.
Not just in Star Wars, but the entire saga. Audiences will see a new Cloud City in Empire and a revamped Sarlacc pit in Jedi.
You know, one right after the other within a few weeks of each other, so that people can see them sort of like Saturday matinee serials that they were originally meant to be.
George Lucas finished the original Star Wars just hours before opening night. This go-round, he took all the time he needed.
This is my chance. This is my chance to fix all those things. So I took it, and I'm very happy with it.
His masterpiece is complete. But what it took to get there makes the Battle of the Empire look like a cat fight. Next, how George Lucas needed more than the Force to blast Star Wars into the 90s. Meet his team of wizards and the tools they used. The Force Returns will return.
The Sci Fi Channel Weekends of Wonder.
Tonight.
Come with me.
Restored audio.
You can shake your seats.
Enhanced images.
It's like taking a layer of Gladbag or Saran wrap off your glasses.
And brand new scenes.
Java.
Even I get bored at sometimes.
They're fun. They're really, really great.
Reissuing a movie that's been on video and on television, a live-action film, has never been done before. And especially not at this scale. So everybody's saying, should we do this, should we not do this? But when it came to doing it at that scale, I said, well, if we're going to put that much money in reissuing the movie, I want to get it right this time.
Taking a look at the breakdown of the number of shots and dupes, opticals, and effects of over 800, it's a massive undertaking.
How do you fix a classic? Well, if you work for George Lucas, you start by saving it. Rick McCallum is the producer of the saga.
The actual original negative, it was so far gone that unless we actually did this at this time, we were never going to have the film to be able to release ever again.
Films, you know, do deteriorate and they disappear. I think this one had deteriorated a lot more than anybody expected in 20 years.
The color fading had dropped by 20–25%.
We've gone back to the original negative, cleaned it up considerably.
The Lucas team restored the damaged negative by chemically washing it frame by frame. The new print is pristine, but still looks very different than today's sci-fi blockbusters. That's due to outmoded lenses, film stock, and processing techniques. To update the film, Lucas added over 109 new digitally created scenes. For example, the rebel attack on the Death Star.
Red 5, I'm going in.
But according to visual effects supervisor Dave Carson, there was a problem.
One of the things we were concerned with right from the beginning was we certainly didn't want it to suddenly look like a brand new, different looking shot every time we dropped in one of the redos or improved or new shots.
All this was about how do you make Star Wars 20 years later look like a new movie.
The team created a computer program that would mix the past with the present.
We began early on to make sure that it was possible for us to take a shot, scan it digitally, work on it, do the things to what we want to do, film it back out, and then cut it back in and have it not seem like a different animal.
It's like building onto a house, and the new wing was flawless, but the rest of the house then had to be elevated to that level.
It's very hard to tell which are the computer-generated shots and which are the old shots from the other movie. It's very hard to pick them out.
For example, the new and improved X-Wing and TIE fighters.
You know, you can actually see them. They come straight over camera. They go underneath camera. We can pan with them. You can see the pilots inside of them. You can see their heads moving.
The transition from 70s technology to that of the 90s is remarkable. 2 decades ago, the land speeder hung on a metal support arm. The Millennium Falcon and the TIE fighters were dangled on string in front of a blue screen and filmed 1 frame at a time.
The models couldn't fly directly over the head of a camera without seeing how that it was shaky and moving around. We've changed those shots and made those much more visually dynamic. They're fun.
They changed the images by animating, generating, and bringing them to life by computer.
The essence of the storytelling had to be sacrificed for the limits of technology. So George had very specific shots that he wanted to be able to achieve, but it was extremely difficult to do that with models on wires.
While the visual team was dealing with pictures, sound designer Ben Burt was remastering and redesigning the audio, but not re-recording it.
We didn't want to throw out the sound in the film and do it over. There were so many classic things in it.
Burt and Lucas kept the mix, but digitally enhanced it, equalized it, and blasted it out of every corner of the theater.
So a spaceship can fly from behind you and move all the way to another corner, this sort of thing. The most critical item in the design of a sound of a film is the selection of just the right sound at the right moment.
Moments like the speeder bike sound in Return of the Jedi. Ben Burtt found that sound in the most unlikely of places. One man's misfire ended up being Ben's bullseye.
I looked out and there was a guy with a pneumatic air hammer with a stone had gotten caught apparently in the rubber hosing, and he was fighting with this thing, and I ran and got my tape recorder, went outside and said, "Don't do anything, just wait a minute."
Sound is extremely important, and it's very important to the overall enjoyment of the film that it be big.
Join me. With this transformation of a 70s blockbuster into a 90s movie event, one thing will always remain the same: the Star Wars story. So how does George Lucas expand on that? Next, Jabba the Hutt slithers his way into technological history. Stay tuned for The Force Returns, Jabba style. In the original Star Wars, Jabba the Hutt placed a bounty on Han Solo's head.
We'll be safe enough once we make the jump to hyperspace.
It seems Solo jettisoned valuable cargo he was smuggling for Jabba. The Hutt wasn't happy, although you'd never know it from the expression on his face. Why? Because Jabba never appeared in the first film. He does now.
Right here, Jabba.
That at the Jabba the Hutt scene with Han Solo, which was a scene that had been cut out due to time and money constraints.
George was always upset because he couldn't do a scene after the cantina scene.
Stephen Sansweet is a Star Wars historian.
And in the script, he met none other than Jabba the Hutt. And George filmed the scene with a rotund Irish actor, and he always intended to substitute the actor at the end of filming for a puppet or a stop-motion thing. He couldn't do it. Time ran out, money ran out, the technology wasn't there.
2 decades later, Jabba the Hutt has been electronically reborn.
He hadn't fully created the look when he actually shot the sequence.
It was going to cost way too much money and take too much time to do it. And I figured, I didn't know whether I was ever going to get to make the other movies. So I figured if I didn't make the third movie, the idea of introducing Jabba the Hutt really wasn't that important.
That was then. This is now. Visual effects supervisor Stephen Williams.
This project here was about 5 shots. Took about a year to do. The actual motion of Jabba never really existed before. This is something we had discussed with George Lucas, and he said, well, basically I want him to move.
The theoretical question Lucas had for his team was this: how would a 5,000-pound blob walk?
Maybe he has a whole bunch of little legs off the side and they sort of come out like an anemone, right, and actually help him scurry.
But after some weight calculations, they concluded that those legs would buckle under his girth.
Over time, it became evident that the mass of the character would allow us to make him move like a sea lion, right? And so that's essentially what I did. I made him move like a sea lion.
The ultimate goal is to make it look like Jabba was on the set talking to Harrison Ford, and we just photographed it.
So here's how they brought Jabba to life. Artists created a computer-generated creature. He was completely animated. They programmed the creature's motions using those of the 2-decade-old stand-in as a guide.
He's taken the old 20-year-old footage of Han Solo, Harrison Ford, taken out the actor, and substituted a computer graphic Jabba the Hutt.
Not only can Jabba walk, but he can act. interact with Harrison Ford. In the scene, Ford's finger directly overlaps Jabba's body.
The computer has allowed us to basically trace on a frame-by-frame basis a character or an element in a scene, and to do so that the line doesn't kind of waver and jump all around. It can hold the shape of the character much more faithfully during the course of the sequence.
In order to make Jabba work, you get around and get away from the computer side of it. It really still is an artist sitting at a computer, a tool, in which he's molding like a sculptor with clay. And if you believe it, that's what the talent is that makes you believe that character.
Look, Jabba, even I get bored sometimes.
Through computer artistry, Jabba the Hutt has become a walking, talking, integral part of Star Wars. Exactly what George Lucas had envisioned.
Right here, Jabba. Been waiting for you.
I really wanted to go back and put that back in there because it was sort of relevant to what happens to Han Solo at the end of the movie. And I really wanted to be able to connect the first film with the third film the way it was meant to be.
Next up, the stars come out and the fans line up. Buckle in and stay tuned for Star Wars: The Impact.
You gotta understand, George Lucas didn't have the money to spend on it, and now he was able to clean it up, turn it into the experience that he wanted. I mean, you gotta understand, half the scenes in there, there'd be like only half the stormtroopers, whereas now there was 10 times the Empire. The Rebel force was just nothing compared to the Empire, and yet we were able to beat them and defeat them.
Millions of fans are checking their pulses with the re-release of Star Wars: The Special Edition, and Hollywood executives are scrutinizing the box office receipts.
11, 12.
It is an unprecedented turnout for the sci-fi blockbuster, which now rates as the highest-grossing film of all time. Star Wars is also the first film ever to top the $400 million mark.
The Force will be with you, always.
At the huge Hollywood premiere, Steven Spielberg, whose film E.T. used to be in the #1 spot, graciously conceded the enduring fan appeal of Star Wars.
It touched a chord in everybody's lives all around the world. You know, slogans like "May the Force be with you" was used in political cartoons. Presidents quoted lines from the movie. This film's never left us.
Because it's a fairy tale.
Because it's timeless, it's universal, it's forever.
The first of its kind, and there's really been nothing since to match it.
Kids are really going to get to see what a real movie is like.
Hundreds of fans and celebrities alike flocked to the Star Wars gala premiere, knowing that movie history was about to repeat itself. Well, not quite.
We did not have a premiere the first time around, and so better late than never, certainly.
Star Wars first opened on May 25, 1977. Back then, it set the standard for special effects, use of sound, and for impossibly long ticket lines. Now, in 1997, the film is picking up where it left off, with pre-sale lines that are literally winding around the block.
Totally revolutionized movies, and all of us grew up with it, so we want to see it, and we want our kids to see it, and it's just going to go on forever.
This will be the first time for me to see him in the theater, so I'm really excited about that.
My 4-year-old here loves Star Wars, and she's never seen it on the big screen, so it's her first chance to see it other than on TV.
Just one night after the grand premiere, general audiences lined up for the film's opening weekend. And as you might expect, the fans dressed for the occasion. Even grown men were dressing like Princess Leia.
Oh, she's an admirable character and attractive, and I want to be admirable.
And what were their expectations?
The experience, just the overall huge experience of seeing it in a theater with so many people who haven't seen it in a theater for so long.
It was quite spectacular, I thought it was.
Old and young are waiting in line. side by side, anticipating this historic film event.
I've heard that there's going to be special scenes.
The new scenes and the special effects. I think it's going to be great.
Either side. Chinese theater. Okay. Step right in.
And as the curtain came up and the new and improved Star Wars was finally unveiled, not one fan we talked to was anything less than ecstatic.
It was awesome. It was great. The new special effects were great. Everybody in the audience notices them, and everybody screams, and it's so much fun.
Well, you get to see Biggs and Luke Skywalker interact. That was something new that wasn't in the other ones. You get to see all the whole fleet flying out towards the Death Star. Yeah. Very exciting.
The sound was so loud I could actually feel the vibration.
I never thought I would experience anything like that. This was great. This was just... I mean, I knew the ending, but I was just right there on the end of my seat.
New scenes are spread throughout the movie, so it's not like in one's part of it, and it's great. It's just great.
The sound, the picture, the quality, the negative, the way everything was spliced together. Oh my God, incredible. Go see this movie. It's on.
It's hard to say why one film or one story touches the collective consciousness and transcends age, gender, race, even generations. But Star Wars has done just that.
There's a moment when Luke leaves his room and he goes out into the crater and he looks out at the two suns of Tatooine. There's just something in that shot. It was so simple, but you could see all the yearnings of every young boy and every young girl. It's just... it's the anticipation, it's the anxiety of splitting away from home, it's the idea of the adventures that lie ahead of you, it's the ability to try and take a part of the world and own it.
Like the quest of Luke Skywalker, young filmmaker George Lucas also reached for the stars and came away achieving greatness.
One of the reasons that I started doing the film was I was interested in creating a new kind of myth and using space to do it because that's the new frontier.
The Star Wars saga has delighted audiences and been embraced by fans around the world. Who knows, maybe even beyond.
The Force will be with you, always.